Hi there, welcome to another episode. Today, I will finish this Type 97 Chiha. In the previous episode, I got the assembly and camo paint done. And today, I will start by disassembling and prepare for the next process. To hold the parts, I use bamboo skewers I cut to different sizes, and some I put alligator clips on. I pre-drill a piece of plywood and use it as a stand. Before spraying the clear coat, I give the model an air blast. I use Pledge clear gloss for the clear coat. I spray with a Patchette Type H airbrush with a size 1 nozzle at 25 psi. I let the first coat dry for 5 minutes, then I go over with a final coat. Once done with the clear coat, I must clean the airbrush to prevent clogging. Before I started spraying, I fill a thermos container with hot water, which I use to fill up the airbrush cup and backflow for a few seconds. I pour the water out and repeat the process a few times. Then I open the nozzle all the way and spray a full cup of hot water into the airbrush pot. I make one last run with 70% alcohol, then I clean the cup with a piece of paper. Now it's time to look at the instructions and choose the decals. I'll be using this version. After the clear coat has fully cured, I cut the decals and put them in water, then I transfer them to the model. I use Mr. Mark Setter to position the decal in place. Then I apply Mr. Mark Softer. Using a paper towel, I remove the excess. The next process is to add a pin wash. For this, I use Tamiya black panel liner. I apply it to the panel lines, welds, and bolts, and making sure it overlaps. Then, I use mineral spirits from Winsor Newton to blend in the overlap, giving the parts a shadow effect. Here are the pictures of how the model looks after this process. Next, I coat the model with Acrylic matte to protect the panel wash and remove the glossy finish. This I sprayed at 28 psi and gave the model 2 coats. The next process is chipping. I cut a piece of sponge and attach it to a pair of tweezers. I mix Tamiya deck tan and dark yellow in a 2:1 ratio. After dipping the sponge in the paint, I unload it in a piece of paper before applying it to the model. Please note that all my paint mixtures are estimates. To add the steel chips, I use Vallejo dark rust thinned with water over the light chips done previously. Now let's get to the exhaust. First, I paint them with gray. Then I add a similar chipping process with light gray. I also use dark rust paint to darken the tight areas. I use this as the base for rust effects. And for the rust process, first I apply a coat of AK rust streaks. Then I use Vallejo orange rust diluted with water applied as a filter. And last, on the plain areas, I add Vallejo light rust wash, also diluted with water. The mesh cover in the exhaust gets the chipping process with the brush. Then I give them a wash with Vallejo airwood diluted with water. The next process is to rust the chips with AK rust streaks. While fresh, they are blended in with mineral spirits. The rubber tracks are very difficult to glue, and the instructions recommend using a hot tool, so I cut the pins halfway and hold the tracks with tweezers, and using a soldering iron I go over multiple times, barely touching the area until bonded together. The tracks get primed with dark gray. All paints used for the tracks get thin with Tamiya X20A. Then, using Hull Red, I spray over random links. Using a mix of Hull Red and Red Brown, I painted the remainder areas. Then went over everything with a light mist for blending. I use patch and paint from DAP for mud effects. I mix it with 70% alcohol to create a paste-like consistency. I add a few drops of buff to give it a dusty color. The alcohol helps the paint mix easier with the paste. Using a brush, I add the mixture in between every link. I use water to remove the paste from unwanted areas and make the paste smoother if it hardens. Next, using a plastic bristle brush, I splatter the tracks with Ammo Mic dark mud. For the inside of the tracks, I apply AK light dust, then go over with mineral spirits to make it smoother. Once dried, I use a pencil to mark the lines where wheels come in contact with the tracks. On the hull, I apply the same mud process like on the tracks, but this time I use Desert Yellow for color. I also use a larger brush to apply the mud around the edge and rear fenders. With a smaller brush, I add a little bit of mud to the upper side where the track line is. Then I apply AK light dust to the lower hull and around the suspension parts. Using a white brush and mineral spirits, I blend the paint downwards. Once the light dust has dried, I splatter dark mud effects mainly around the mud. The front and back get a similar effect. For the wheels, first I apply mineral spirits, then apply AK light dust, and I use mineral spirits again to remove the excess. I go over some areas with very little light dust on the brush. And now it's time to place wheels in permanently. Some wheels have a poly cap, but others require glue to be set in place. For the ones at the center, I let the model sit on a flat surface while drying. Then the tracks are installed. I go one last time with dark mud splatters. And I was not very happy with the color the mud had turned, so I apply more dark mud effects. And while it was still wet, I applied light dust in a few spots. Next, I paint the tools and tow cable with Rebel Tar Black. Once dried, I use Mr. Color Silver to go over the parts with the dry brush method. The turret goes in for the last time. I add the smoke effects with the sponge using the same Rebel paint from before. The antenna gets dry brushed with Tamiya dark copper. Light bulbs get detailed with Molotov chrome pen. And for the final touch, I use a pencil to add a metal sheen to the tracks. And it's done. I hope you found this video interesting, and if you want to know when I upload the next video, please hit the subscribe button. Wait till the end if you want to know what my next model is. Thank you for watching, and till next time.